and New Hampshire have been working throughout the day to establish probable cause to charge Neves Valente. Earlier today, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Massachusetts filed a criminal complaint under seal detailing the chain of events over the past 6 days, including information that led us to today's search of the storage locker in New Hampshire. This is what we learned during this multi-jurisdictional investigation. Neves Valente studied at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island on an F1 visa around 2000 to 2021. He eventually obtained legal permanent resident status. Previously, he attended the same academic program as the MIT professor Nuno Loureiro in Portugal between 1995 and 2000. Although Neves Valente appeared to reside in Florida, between November 26 and November 30 of this year, he rented a hotel room in Boston. On December 1st, he rented a gray Nissan Sentra with Florida plates from a car rental agency in Boston. That same day, he drove to the vicinity of Brown University, where his car was observed intermittently between December 1st and December 12th. On December 13th, Neves Valente entered an auditorium on Brown University's campus during a study session and began shooting at students, killing Ella Cook and Mohammed Aziz Umarzokov and injuring 9 others. Between December 13th and December 14th, Neves Valente returned to Massachusetts. On December 15th, he murdered MIT professor Nuno Loureiro at Loureiro's home in Brookline, Massachusetts. At some point while he was in Massachusetts, he switched the plates on the Nissan Sentra to an unregistered plate out of Maine. Immediately following Professor Loureiro's murder, Neves Valente drove to a storage facility in Salem, New Hampshire, where he had rented a storage unit in November of this year. Since the December 13th shootings at Brown and the December 15th shooting in Brookline, state, local, and federal law enforcement officials have been working hand in hand around the clock to identify the shooter and prevent him from inflicting further harm. I have said this before and will continue to believe when law enforcement agencies work together, crimes are solved and the public is protected. The information we provided to you tonight would not be possible without the dedicated men and women of law enforcement in multiple districts throughout New England, including the FBI, ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshal Service, Massachusetts State Police, Rhode Island State Police, Providence Police, Brookline Police, and the Brown University Police. In addition, prosecutors from the Rhode Island Attorney General's Office and the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, and federal prosecutors from Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts all contributed to this result. I also want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi for her support in coordinating the federal response.
Questions?
Can you tell us anything about his motive and the 2 sets of victims and how they might be related and how he might be related to them?
That is not information that we can share right now, but as soon as that information becomes available, we will share that with the public.
Are you able to say anything of what led you to link the 2 crimes, perhaps initially?
Can you repeat her question so we can hear you more?
Yes, the question was how were we able to link him to the 2 crimes? So investigators identified the vehicle that he had rented in Boston and then drove to Rhode Island. And he was seen, the vehicle was seen outside of Brown, and there was security footage that showed a person who resembled him. There was financial investigations that were going on in the background that linked him not only to that car, but also to the hotels that he had rented and the car that he had used to not only drive to Rhode Island, but then back to Boston. And then there was the security footage that captured him within a half mile of the professor's residence in Brookline. And there is a video footage of him entering an apartment building in the location of the professor's apartment. And then later that evening, he is seen about an hour later entering the storage unit wearing the same clothes that he had been seen wearing right after the murder.
So you have an extensive video canvas as part of this investigation. That leaves you no doubt.
This is the evidence we have right now. We are coming to you tonight because the federal complaint was unsealed, and we wanted to provide you with the information and to assure the public that law enforcement collectively believe that we have the person, that we identified the person, and that person is dead, and that he was the person responsible not only for the Brown shootings, but for the Brookline shooting.
Can you speak to, before the self-inflicted gunshot, was there any interaction between law enforcement and Neves Valente? Like, any words exchanged or anything like that?
No, when investigators went into the storage facility tonight to execute the federal search warrant, he was dead.
Do you think he entered there this evening?
No.
He entered an hour after what happened in Brookline.
Yes.
And do you know how long that storage, did he rent that? Like how long?
Our understanding from the financial investigation is that he had rented a storage facility at the location in Salem, New Hampshire in November.
Can you confirm whether or not he used the same weapon in the Brown shooting as he did in the MIT shooting?
Ballistics investigation was ongoing and has not been completed at this time, so we're not going to comment on that.
Can you give us any sense of when you started to recognize perhaps that, he was the same person? I know it was through a video, but when it sort of dawned on investigators that these two cases were related?
It was in the last 24 to 48 hours that my understanding, according to my understanding, is when the link began to be established. And that was mainly, he was using a phone that was obfuscating ability to track it. And he was using financial, not credit cards that were tied to his name. And so he was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
According to the complaint that was unsealed, it says that Neves Valente and the MIT professor had attended the same academic program together in Portugal from 1995 to 2000. Do you know if they knew each other? Or
My understanding is that they did know each other.
Have they been in communication since that last date?
I don't have any information to provide you.
Would you call this targeted?
We're still investigating the motive in this case and trying to, because like I said, he was very careful in his communications, and we just don't have any information right now to answer that question. But when we get that information, we will share it.
Was there anything else in the storage locker?
The storage locker in which his body was found, my information is that no.
Was that satchel in the storage?
Yes.
locker? What was in it?
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear you online.
So the question was there anything else in the storage unit aside from the defendant's body? And the answer is he was found in there with his satchel. There was nothing else found in there that I am aware of, but they're still in the process of searching that facility right now.
Did he kill himself right away?
We don't have any information when he killed himself, but he was dead when investigators found his body.
Can you tell us anything about his life? Like, I think you said the last known address was in Florida. Like, what he was doing? Was he working? Was he in the field of physics, which he had studied? Any sort of biographical stuff you can tell us about him?
Because his identity was only become aware to us in the last 24 hours, I can't provide you with any of that information right now, but I'm sure once we have a full understanding of what he has been doing, where he has been, aside from the time when he entered into New England in November, we will provide that information.
Besides the MIT professor, did he know any of the victims at Brown University personally?
We have no information that he knew any of the victims or anyone who was at that auditorium on the night that he went in and killed.
Have you been able to find anything about when he did attend Brown, whether there were any issues? If he was there briefly, was he kicked out? You know?
That information hasn't been provided to us yet.
Given what you see on the video of the MIT professor's home, Is there any doubt that he was the intended target of the killing?
The information that I know, and again, the investigations are going to continue to be able to provide you with all the answers that you are asking, is that there was no doubt that he was the intended target.
What was